imagine the same should apply to Stephen Hansley as well.
Moving on then to item.
Yeah, okay, Ivan, thanks.
Thanks for the clarification, Ivan. Okay, then moving on to item 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the Derbyshire Police and Crime Panel held on the 10th of September 2020. Shall we go page by page for accuracy then, please? So I've got a message. Councillor Potter appears to be missing from the minutes. So could we add him in, please, Ivan?
I actually didn't think that Councillor Potter attended the last meeting due to IT issues, I believed. But
I think you're right, Ivan. None of us from City Council could attend. There was all the IT was down.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, moving on then to page 2 of the minutes. Any clarifications on page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Okay, is there anything else that anybody wants to raise on the minutes? Six, 7. Can we accept those as a accurate record?
I have put next in the chat, Chairman.
Okay, Carol, sorry, I was reading the minutes. Do you want to speak on the AOB?
If I could, as we don't have AOB, I just wondered, it's not accuracy, but it was just some information. So it was on the page 6, and it was to do with the cost that we get, the grant that we get. And there was an item about the scrutiny officer, having a dedicated scrutiny officer. I do understand, I think that yourself and the Vice Chair have agreed sort of hours that were needed, and there was we were going to put out an advert for officer help. Do we have any update on that at all? Because there's nowhere else I can raise it on the agenda. Thank you.
No, that's a really good point, Carol. Thank you very much. Yes, the good news is that we've agreed for part-time support officer to be appointed. I understand that the advert had to. If I want to step in and provide any more details, that would be great. Liz, are you able to update us further?
Yes, I can update you. The advert is currently out at the moment with a closing date of the 6th of December. So hopefully we will have a section of applicants to choose from. So as soon as we get those applications through following the 6th of December, we can shortlist and move to interviews. The process is for it to be an officer appointment panel. So I think it's probably myself and Roy Akrell which will be picking that up. So hopefully interviews towards the end of December, at the beginning of the new year.
Okay, thanks very much. Just picking up if there's anything else. Right, moving on then to item 4, if there's nothing else on the minutes. That's the members' question and answer. Obviously, the Commissioner has provided detailed answers to the questions raised by members. Has anybody got anything they'd want to raise in response to that? Councillor Potter, do you want to jump in?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Hardle, for the contents of item 7, which I noted. However, could I ask as a supplementary question, has the COVID-19 pandemic compromised or altered your current police and crime plan in any way, shape or form? And will the effects of the pandemic necessitate a request for further funding from the public purse? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porter, for that. A lot of it will be covered in the agenda later, but on that particular point, it has had an impact. But in terms of how it changes the police and crime plan, not at this moment in time, because we don't know how long the COVID is going to have an impact. Quite clearly, in terms of financial challenges, and that is covered in item 7, Councillor Porter, and we can discuss it further there. It has meant additional resources are being required, particularly for enforcement. If you note in item 7, £424,000 extra has been recognised by the government that we need to tackle the issues relating to COVID-19. And the rest is still being assessed to what the needs are. But there is a financial issue which is not directly related to COVID-19, which already exists. And that's something that we will be discussing when we bring forward papers on the budget in the fairly short distant future. So I can't give you a clear answer at this stage. It has had an impact, as we know, in everything that everybody's doing, in policing terms, and it's gone into more detail in item 7, and we can pick it up again there if you like, Councillor Porter. But at this moment, the government's recognised that additional activities required, and they funded a small amount to do that for 4 months, and we'll be discussing with them what more is required as the response to COVID-19 unfolds. And as you know, we don't know where the end position is on that yet, despite all the work that's been done around vaccines, track and trace, and all the other issues that are not just for policing, but wider.
Thank you, Hardle.
Many thanks, Hardil. I wanted to ask a supplementary question, if I may, to the question I raised. So thank you very much for providing your detailed response to the review. That was really, really helpful. In that, you mentioned about the varying support and challenge role that panels provide to the Commissioner. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you think we in Derbyshire could act our...
Yeah, okay. I didn't hear the last bit of your question, Vicky, but I think I got the gist of it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I understood what you said. I mean, I think what I would say is that, and it is mentioned in my in the feedback I've given to the consultation, the challenge element. There's 2 elements, and we have discussed this previously in our discussions. The challenge element is actually holding me to account as the Police and Crime Commissioner of what I'm doing around strategic, and often it's natural for members to consider operational issues and questions of operational, and I understand that, and I will try to endeavour to do that as much as possible. So the challenge for me is actually the element which is the 2 elements of the Police and Crime Plan's role. One is about challenge and making sure that any complaints or observations about the public are you deal with it in the way you are required to do so. The second bit is actually how you can support and contribute towards policy and strategy from your experiences, from your districts and your areas, and how you bring information of things that can be looked at, and something that then helps me to shape policy. So that's the area. I think it's always there, and if you look back, it's always there within the role of the Police and Crime Panel. But I think that sometimes gets overlooked and neglected, with the view, quite rightly, for the panel wanting to sort of look into how things are being done in terms of operational policing. So that's an area I think could be developed, and having an appropriate resource to support the panel, I think would be helpful, so that, you know, somebody who can help the panel advise you in terms of policy and strategic issues where your experience from your district can inform how I can develop the strategy, the police and crime plan, and how I'm sort of engaging with other organisations. So that's an area, I think, and I think you're onto it already, because you are looking to get more resource to support the work you're doing. And I think that's welcome, in my opinion, because that gives you more sort of support to actually develop that side of your role.
Many thanks, Harjil. That's really useful. Obviously, going forward, the way in which we develop our working groups, I think we can focus on those areas in order to offer that and support and challenge to you. So thank you very much. That's really useful. Is there any other comments that anybody wants to make on the responses that Harjil's provided? Okay, in that case,
Chair, in
shall
the
we
absence of that, Chair, could I just, on the question that was raised by Councillor Bright on the emergency services network, if I can just add, this is a really dangerous situation, because the emergency service network, which is about the new communication system replacing airwaves, it's been a project that's been going on for many years, 4, 5, 6 years, and it keeps getting delayed and delayed. And the risk is that we have to continue to pay for the current airwave system, and possibly having to pay for whatever's already been developed about the new emergency services network. And the risk I am raising with, and all police and crime commissioners are actually up and down the country, is that the cost of that could be having to be borne by police and crime commissioners and local forces. And that is something that's untenable, because it's a government initiative, the emergency service network, and it's complicated and it's still not landing. And each year we get told that it'll happen next year. But now we're in danger of double paying to maintain the current airway system, and also having to pay for whatever's already been set up around the emergency services network and the new system, because we can't switch one off until the other one's satisfies policing in terms of delivering what the airwave system did and more. And that is a real concern, and we are pushing back to government that we should not bear the double cost of that, because that definitely will have an implication for what funding is available for policing in Derbyshire. And as I say, I'm not alone in this. Nearly every police and crime commissioner is raising this as a concern with government. So I just wanted to expand on what I've already given as an answer, response to that particular question. Chair.
Thank you very much, Harjil. That's very useful. A couple of us attended the national executive a little while back, and that was one of the issues was actually raised there. So we obviously know that it's not just an issue for Derbyshire, it is an issue across the country. So we'll watch and see how that develops. But thank you very much for your update. Is there anything else that anybody wants to raise on item 4, or shall we move on to item 5, the annual report? Okay, Councillor Potter, did you want to ask us something? I think
yes,
you're
thanks.
on mute.
Am I off now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Things. Right. No, I've lost me train of thought at the moment. Hold on. Carry on. Carry on. I'll withdraw it. Carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on then to item 5, the annual report. This is a paper that's been provided for us by Liz in terms of the requirement for an annual report to be provided in response to our grant allowance. Liz, is there anything else you'd want to add to your report in terms of an introduction for us?
Just to reinforce that the proposed annual report is attached for you to consider at Appendix 1. It is one of the conditions of receiving the Home Office grant that what they call the critical success factors are monitored and reported on, and those critical success factors are set out in the report, and you'll see that they include reference to the panel's annual report. So on the basis that that's potentially considered as being best practice and will contribute towards engagement with the public, we have put together an annual report detailing and setting out the work that's been done this year. So in accordance with the requirements of the panel arrangements, we've set out the membership, the schedule of meetings, the work that's been undertaken, looking at the challenge topics and the highlights of the year, and also confirming the training that members have had the opportunity to participate in. So the first recommendation is to agree that report for this year, which is at Appendix 1. In considering the grant that the panel has been allocated up to 2021, that uses similar terms, and the grants attached at Appendix 3. They're no longer known as critical success factors, but are noted as being key performance indicators, but they are they are very, very similar, and again refer to the panel's annual report. So the other potential recommendation is whether the panel would wish to consider it appropriate to continue completing an annual report to support the key performance indicators, and whether it would be appropriate for members of the panel to be involved in the production of that report and convene a working group to consider the format, framework and content for the future annual report for 2020 and 2021 and onward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Liz. Are there any questions on that? I see that you've got your hand up, Jed. Anyone else? Okay, Jed, do you want to?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I found this question, so we're back online. Liz, at table 1.11, there's a table on page 26. Its headings are administration expenses, translation fees, and a total. If the administration fees are 53,300 and the expenses add up to 13,800, that gives us the 67,100 total. But the expenses at 13,800 equate to 15 members claiming £920 expenses each. I'm just wondering, as we're having virtual meetings, there shouldn't be any expenses. So what happens to those expenses?
Those expenses stay in the pot. Derbyshire has been paying them on a provision basis. So once we get the receipts, they're paid, but Derbyshire only pays them for the independent members anyway. It's the other nominating authorities that meet the cost of expenses for other nominated members. That's under the panel arrangements, and each authority bears its own cost, if you like.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay, and any other questions on this report then, please? Okay, can we move to recommendations then? Are we going to accept this report on behalf of the panel?
Move as printed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pegg.
Happy with that, Chair.
Thank you. I can't see that, Councillor Barrow. Great stuff. And moving on to the other recommendations to produce a report for 2020 and 21 and establish a working group to develop that report. Are we also in agreement to that?
Yeah, I'll propose that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Happy with that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barrow. So all of those items are therefore agreed. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving now on to item 6, which is the recruitment of independent members. I am going to stand down from chair for this item and hand over to our Vice Chair, Councillor Potter, to lead on this item.
Thank you, Chair. If the 2 members with interest have now left, I'll take the chair over and introduce everybody to item agenda 6, the recruitment of independent members. What I'm going to actually do first of all is ask Liz to take us through this, and my question is, have any other PCPs had to do a similar item? Thanks, Liz, if you could take us through.
Okay, yes, no problem. Firstly, just to mention, I don't think Vicky and and Dr. Hansley have left, but they aren't participating in this item or voting because they've already had an interest which they've already declared.
Liz,
yes,
it's Julie Patton. Just as a point of order, if it was a normal meeting, those people would actually leave the meeting and come back in afterwards. So I don't think it's any different from a virtual meeting. You can't say, well, you know, they've muted and they're not taking part. If they're not supposed to be there, then they must leave the meeting.
From a legal point of view, it's not an interest which would necessarily require them to leave. However, I think that's a matter for the panel. So from a legal point of view, I'm happy to continue either way, whether they withdraw or whether they simply stay and listen but don't take part. So I'm happy to hand back to the chair if the panel would like to consider that point.
Thank you, Liz. So it's up to the panel. Can I have a proposer and a seconder on what the panel wish to do? Thank you.
Well, Chair, if I may, under the circumstances, and brings it's all virtual, and that I think it's only right that they sit there because we might have trouble connecting to them again after the meeting. So there's no point in them going away or whatever, because they could get back on it on Facebook if they so wished. So it's just as easy to keep them in the room or keep them virtual without any comments from them.
Thank you, Councillor Pegg. Does anybody want to second that proposal?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Yeah.
Okay, if we can have a vote on that then, please. All those for? Liz, can you note the votes, please?
Yes, we will do, but also I think there's a couple of hands up. I don't know if they need.
Right, I've got Clive.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. I was just voting for or seconding the resolution that they stay in as they are. So that's why I just put my hand up. Then I've put 4 in the actual chat box. So thank you.
Thank you, Clive. Does any other member wish to speak, or are they clearly putting hands up to vote?
I would like to speak once the report has been delivered by Liz, please, Jed.
Fine.
John Flurry, Jed, I'd like to speak as well.
Certainly.
That's why I got my hand up in the first place. Thank you.
Right, no problem at all. So we've got Carol and John to speak after the report has been delivered. So if you can tell me, Liz, when the voting's finished.
Yes, as far as I can make out, the voting's finished. I'm hoping Ivan will have a second on this, but I can only find in the chat box one against. So the rest have voted for.
Thank you, Liz. So on that then, can you finish outlining the item from your perspective, please?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I will start with an apology and just make it very clear. The year dates aren't correct in the report. It is a report dated the 19th of November 2020. The term of office for Dr. Hansley and Mrs. Newbury commenced in January 2017, which means their term of office would naturally come to its end after 4 years in January 2021, not 2020, as it says in the report. So the suggested extension is from January 2021 until January 2022. So in terms of the report itself, the panel arrangements for Derbyshire require that the panel co-opt at least 2 independent members, and the term of office is stipulated to be 4 years. And the panel arrangements also set out the process for recruitment and appointment. As I've already said, that the current term of office for the panel's 2 current independent members, Dr. Stephen Hansley and Mrs. Vicky Newbury, is due to end in January 2021. And under normal circumstances, that would lead to a request for a recruitment process to be commenced for new independent members. However, it is proposed that the panel considers whether the terms of the panel arrangements should be varied to extend that term of office so that the current independent members would serve a term of 5 years and that the recruitment process be delayed until 2022. That would reflect the action which was taken under the COVID legislation with regard to the Police and Crime Commissioner himself, where the elections have been delayed by a year. And in response to Councillor Potter's question, I am aware of a further authority, Hampshire County Council, which has done this as host authority for the Hampshire Police and Crime Panel. The other reasons for doing this are really with regard to the recruitment process itself. Obviously, we are once again back in a lockdown situation. Whilst technology has been amazing and has allowed us to have meetings such as this, it does make it quite difficult to reach members of the public, which is what we would be wanting to do through this recruitment process, and the restrictions on meeting and how we could actually obtain applications would present some difficulty. So the current circumstances do give us substantial difficulties in conducting a full and thorough recruitment process. It is put as a decision for the panel to make. So should the panel determine not to extend the current term of the independent members, then a recruitment process will be undertaken to ensure that the panel does remain fully constituted once the terms of office come to an end. It would also be suggested that if you do commence an interview process, you may want to consider a working group for consideration of the applications and in terms of interviewing candidates. So the recommendations for the report are to vary the panel arrangements for the next 12 months so that the current independent members can serve a term of office for 5 years, which would end in 2022. And then we commence a recruitment process prior to that extended term of office in January 2022, then reverting to the term of office being for 4 years thereafter. I know there are some questions, but yes, if there's anything else I can help with, Chair.
Thank you, Liz. Before we move to the recommendations, then I'd like to ask Carol to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Well, the first thing that Liz said has probably clarified some of the confusion on this report, because reading it, it just didn't make any sense at all. We've been talked about extending for a year, when it actually, if it expired in January 21, it would only be a couple of months that we're talking about. So I think that was very confusing, and at least that has cleared that up. I think also the report, unfortunately, I realise it's slightly different in the fact that we have got an independent chair, but if you read it in accordance with procedure, this is on page 2, it's saying the applications would be considered against agreed eligibility criteria by the chair and vice chair. Well, of course, that can't happen if the chair is going to be involved in the interview process. Also about the chairman and vice chair should be on the selection group as well. And again, that is impossible. So that sort of particular piece of paragraph is total nonsense. I also really don't agree with the fact that you can't go out to get people to respond to adverts. I mean, they've been doing this for 9 months now, and I mean, basically, I mean, I know that we've even had appointed a head of legal services in this last month at Derbyshire. We've also appointed 2 deputy director of public health, and it can be done. So I don't think that would actually be a detriment to it. I think it is possible to do it quite well, and with social media as it is, again, I think we could get that out quite easily. Having said all that, one of the things that I've always advocated on this police and crime panel, we get too many people changing too often, and all we seem to do is have to get training in for new people time and time again. And so actually, I mean, Vic has been on this police and crime panel as long as I haven't got experience, and Dr. Hamsley's been on the panel for a while now, and he's got experience. So in principle, you know, COVID has caused all sorts of problems. So in principle, I've no problem in supporting it. I just think that the report wasn't the best of reports that I've read. So it's just my opinion, but I'm happy to go along with this. You know, as I say, in principle, it's just the report wasn't very helpful. Thank you, Jan.
No problem. Thanks, Carol. I have John Flood next.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a very sensible thing. I think the recommendations are very sensible. And don't forget, we've got county elections next year, so you know that can put things up in the air. And I think if we do extend the term of office for another year, that will be reflecting the fact that the election of the Police and Crime Commissioner has gone forward another year. So I would like, Chair, to move recommendations 1 and 2 on page 3 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I've just got some other people that want to speak on this, and I'll take your proposal after that. I've got Jonathan Smale, Councillor Jonathan Smale. Do you want to speak?
Thanks, Jed. Pretty much everything's been said. I think, in principle, agree with the report. Thanks for the clarity, Liz, on that typo. And so I'll happily endorse the recommendations and vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I've got Paul Pegg, Councillor Pegg, with a hand up. If you want to speak, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the report is fine. I think the 2 current independent members have done a fantastic job, and over the last few years. And like John Flood, I would like to move it, or I'll second his motion and act for acceptance of the paper before us.
Thank you, Paul. I've now got Councillor Clive Mosby with his hand up.
Is that from before, Jed?
Could be, yeah. You might have to take it down.
I'm too busy. Let me come in. I'll have my cup of anything. All right. No,
that was a fatal mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, mate. You should know me better than that. I think we've been called many times. We talk too much, don't we? But anyway, yeah, I'm just in favour of recommendations, you know, as other people have said on page 3. I think it's a sensible way forward. We do need this, you know, we need this clarity of people, this experience of people, and in these testing times, COVID's put us all to a test. And I think mucking about trying to recruit people at this time, maybe not as experienced, maybe not be able to contribute as much to the panel and to the well-being of the people of Derbyshire is the sensible way forward. So totally in favour of the 2 recommendations on page 3 of the report and fully support it. And thanks for that fraudulent slip up and letting me get in, Jed.
Right, thank you very much, Clive. Does anybody else? Councillor Faye Atkinson, do you want to speak?
Yes, I will do. I was just going to second the recommendation, but just to say that, yes, I support the recommendations. I think it's sensible in light of the situation that we're in at the moment, and I think it would be good for continuity as well. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Faye. Does anybody else want to speak on this? Julie, Councillor Julie Patton, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Jed. I don't really see what the issue is about going out to recruitment to get other people involved. We should be giving everybody the opportunity to join this panel in every way that we should. We recruit via the county. We're doing everything online. We have been doing for some time. If you look on the government websites, that's continuing online. So I really don't see what the issue is. So I'd be in favour of actually not supporting the 2 recommendations.
Thank you, Julie. Does anybody else want to speak? Silence. So we move to the 2 recommendations as posted on page 8. Sorry,
Chair. I did put speak in the chat a while ago.
Okay, sorry. Got a bit busy.
That's fine. I too support what Councillor Hart has said, and I will be supporting Councillor Patton's proposal to go ahead with the recruitment. I think COVID, you know, we have got these by digital media, we do have the ability to do this. You know, much of the world has continued as normal. Recruitment has gone on. GPs consult virtually. The country's even being run virtually. We've appointed a chief constable during the COVID situation. So for me, I think it's only right and proper that we should actually continue with the recruitment process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Does anybody else want to speak? Councillor Barrow?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think we're sort of missing the point here that when we appointed a chief constable or an officer to Derbyshire County Council, for instance, then they are applying for a particular position and a particular job themselves. Now, with the best will in the world, we're trying to get independent people that have a mind to join the police and crime panel, and I think it's totally different. It's a different process. It's a different functionality in terms of getting people interested into giving some effectively free time to some of their free time, to the police and crime panel. So I totally agree with the recommendations that this is extended for a year, and I don't agree with the previous speakers saying that it is, oh well, we can recruit and we can do this and we can do that. It's a question of getting the right caliber of people and with the right knowledge, to be able to work as our current 2 independent members are working very, very well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. I've got Councillor Coyne now wishes to speak.
Well, almost Councillor Coyle, but
Coyle, sorry.
Close enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, what's actually just been said by Councillor Barrow is basically what I was going to say. It is extremely difficult to try to recruit these posts at the moment. I don't quite know what the other 2 councillors were thinking of, if I'm being honest. And I think the most important thing at the moment is a stability, experience. I think it's and a consistency. And although I'm not a again, a full-time member of this panel, I am aware of the abilities and the capabilities of the two independent members at the moment, and I think it's important that we just actually stay consistent as we are through the pandemic, and then we'll look at it again.
Thank you, Jim. I'll call you Jim, so don't make a mess of your surname again.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Yeah. Cheers.
Now, Liz wants to come in. If we could just let Liz come in, please. Liz?
Lovely, thank you. It was really just as a point of clarification in response to the points put forward by Councillor Hart. Firstly, as you've I think picked up anyway, it's a matter for the panel whether you wish to recruit or whether you wish to extend. It's entirely down to the panel. And secondly, if we did go for a recruitment process with regard to the panel arrangements, it is the panel arrangements that set out that it would be the chair and the vice chair involved in an appointment process. Of course, there would only that doesn't necessarily preclude an independent member as a chair taking part in that process. Of course, should that chair wish to reapply, then there would be a conflict and we would need to relook at that membership. But until such time as we are notified that that chair would be reapplying, or then there would be no reason to change the arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And I think Julie, Councillor Patton, you've got your hand up again.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come back the points that Councillor Coyle said. I mean, I found those comments a little bit naive, to say the least, to say that we haven't got talented people out there in our communities that could fulfil these roles. So, you know, I'd still support going out there to recruitment and to see who's out there, because, you know, we need new people to come into these panels. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the current chair and vice chair, but we do need new people to come in. And I think not going out to recruitment is basically, it's not meeting our inclusion and equality targets here, Chair.
Thank you, Julie. There's nothing wrong with your current deputy chair. It's just the fact I'm getting a bit old in the tooth. Now then, Jim is coming back, but I am going to draw it to a close after this next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chair. I don't have any objection to debating these matters. In fact, in any matters. But I never said that there weren't people out there who had the talent to take over the role. So that is a completely kind of disingenuous statement. I never said that, and if this is being recorded, you can check it later on. I simply said that the two people we have are talented and have got the ability to do the roles, and it's the wrong time to go out to recruitment during a crisis. So I would hope that Councillor Patton will actually reconsider what she said, because she's put words into the mouth that were never spoken.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm going to draw a line under it now. Thank you to everybody. And I'm going to pass to Liz, because we have a proposal by Councillor Patton to go ahead with the recruitment application procedure, which is seconded by Mo Potts. And we also have John Coyne and proposing the recommendations, and which is also seconded. So Liz, would you like to put the proposals on the table so they can be voted on? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think that the first point is the point of variation. So it will be the proposal to recruit. So I think we take that one first from Councillor Patton and vote on the varied proposal to go to a recruitment procedure.
Thank you, Liz. So we're voting on Julie Patton's proposal, which has been seconded by Councillor Mo Potts, to go with the recruitment procedure. Can you all please indicate your vote? Councillor Val Clay, you've come up with your hand up. Is that a question or are you voting?
Voting, please.
Okay. Can you tell Liz whether you're for or against, please?
4. 4.
Thank you, Val. Did you receive that, Liz?
Yep, I've got that one. Thank you.
Chair, may I put in, please? Would it be easier if Liz asked everybody by name to cast their vote rather than doing it the way that we are doing it? Because it's a little bit confusing.
You're quite correct, Paul. It is. Do you want to do that, Liz, and go down the list?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Thank you for that suggestion. Actually, I agree. I think that would be easier. So, just for clarification, we're voting on the proposal put forward by Councillor Patton to go to an open, the proposal to go to an open recruitment process. So, Councillor Potter, please.
I'm against.
Councillor Hart.
Against.
Councillor Atkinson.
Against.
Councillor Moseby.
Against.
Councillor Innes. I'm sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly.
No, that is how my name is pronounced, and I am against.
Councillor Clare.
4.
Councillor Barrow.
Against.
Councillor Potts.
No, it didn't start. 4. The live stream.
Councillor Patton.
4.
Councillor Coyle.
Against.
I don't know. I need to check that with Robbie after.
Councillor Flood.
Against.
Yes, but we came in. We missed.
Councillor Pegg.
Against.
Councillor Smale.
Against.
Councillor, oh sorry, Councillor Niblock's sent his apologies. Councillor Mee.
Against.
I think Councillor Bagshaw's also sent his apologies, but just to check, he's not here.
I've been lowering hands a lot.
That's everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. If you and Ivan could let us know the result, thank you.
Ivan, I'd be grateful if you could clarify, but I think I've got 3 voted for the proposal, the rest voted against.
Yes, that is correct, Liz.
So that was 11 against.
So that proposal fails. Now we move to the recommendations at item 6. Item recommendations at 1 and 2, which have been proposed by John Flood and seconded by Councillor Paul Pegg. Could we again have the votes, please? Liz? Yep. I feel like I'm on the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah, Councillor Potter, please.
4.
Councillor Hart.
4.
Councillor Atkinson.
4.
Councillor Moseby.
4.
Councillor Innes.
4.
Councillor Clare.
4.
Councillor Barrow.
4.
Councillor Potts.
Abstain.
Councillor Patton.
Against.
Councillor Coyle.
4.
Councillor Flood.
4.
Councillor Pegg.
4.
Councillor Smale.
4.
Councillor Mee.
4.
Thank you. That's the end of my list. So I've got 1 against, 1 abstention, and 12 for the recommendations. Do you agree with that, Ivan?
Yes, that's correct, Liz.
Right, thank you, panel. The officer's recommendations have been passed. And now my only duty is to invite the two independent people back to the meeting, and I'm going to lie down somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jed, and thank you for inviting us back in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shall we continue with the agenda? Moving to item 7, the update from the Commissioner on COVID-19. I think we've all had the chance to read this report. I'd personally like to thank the Commissioner for his update. I think it's really valuable that the panel has the opportunity to understand what is happening and what the impact of COVID is. And thanks to the Commissioner, Chief Constable and the wider Constabulary for the works that they're undertaking to keep Derbyshire a safer place in these challenging times. But I also open this out to the wider panel if there's any comments they would like to make. Just check in. There's nobody with their hand up. No comments in the comments box. So on that,
Movers printed chair.
So thank you very much, Councillor Pegg. So that's moved to accept the report as stated.
Happy with that, Chair.
Anybody want to? Thank you
I'll
very much.
second that, Chair, if it hadn't already been seconded.
Thank you very much for it seconded. So we accept the report with our thanks for providing the update as requested. Moving on then to item 8, Hardiel, have you got any announcements from the Commissioner that you would want to put to the panel? Have we... Hardiel, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry about that, Chair. I couldn't find my cursor to move to the right place.
No problem.
No, I've got no announcements to make at this stage, apart from making sure that everybody adheres to the public health regulations and hopefully makes it easier for police to do their job. I think the most important thing is the majority of the public of Derbyshire cooperate with the police when police are called out for calls for service. So no particular announcements, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'd all endorse that. Moving on then to number 9, events. I don't know if Ivan and Liz have got anything to add in here. Can I just remind people that we've got the virtual national conference next week. The fact that it's virtual means that there is opportunity for people to opt in and out of the various sessions throughout the days. It's a good opportunity to learn what's happening beyond the panel in Derbyshire and learn from what's happening both at a national level in terms of policy, but also the opportunity to hear how other panels operate. So if you haven't registered for that, I would encourage you to do so. And obviously, I understand that some of the highlights from the conference will be made available after. So there's an opportunity to catch up with that at a later stage as well. Are there anything else that I need to include at that point, Ivan, in terms of events?
No, I don't think so, Vicky. I do believe, unfortunately, that I think the meetings are now only open to the candidates that have already applied because of the timescales. Now, that is my understanding. So there are 4 people off the panel attending the various workshops over the 3 days.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. Apologies for that.
It's okay.
I'm just conscious. I'm sorry. I've missed a comment on the bar, and I think was it Stephen wanted to ask a question of Hardiel. I'm sorry that I missed that Can we go back? Is that all right, Hardiel? Stephen, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And going back to Hardiel's announcements, I just wondered what his thoughts were in terms of the current lockdown and any future lockdowns, how the pressure that it will be put on our current Derbyshire police force, in terms of the way they police. Obviously, it seems to me as though the responsibility is being sort of given to our police force, who don't necessarily have either the resources or even the will, if you like, to intervene in some of the cases that we're seeing on TV, Nottingham and Derby, for example, where clearly the police want to intervene, but clearly they haven't got a mandate. I just wonder what Hardiel's thoughts were.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really good question, Stephen. What the police can do and cannot do is actually quite limited, and they do that well when they can. But I think the expectation of the public is that they can do more, and they have to go by legislation, and the legislation is limited to gatherings of more than 6, or at the moment no gatherings in and out because of the lockdown, and they police that quite well. And I have to say, the public of Derbyshire are really cooperative by the fact that we don't give any fixed penalty notices, because people do cooperate when they are made clear what's required when calls of service are happening. And so therefore, I want to encourage that cooperation in Derbyshire to continue. As it continues, in the report earlier, I mentioned that £424,000 are being allocated by government to help enforce and be proactive in enforcing. That has been calculated, and we've had to submit what it will be used for. That will continue. It will enable the police to do this for 4 months. So if the lockdown continues longer and there's requirements for the police to do more, then the cases are being made to government to sort of give that additional funding to continue that. Otherwise, what happens is that the police will have to do that on top of the normal calls for service and responses to incidents. So that does stretch it. However, even when the additional money is made available, the fact is the number of police officers and staff available to do that job are still the same. So what is being asked is for overtime to be done by police officers and police staff. Now, whilst there's a financial gain made by police officers and police staff on that, it does add to fatigue and wearing out and the mental and well-being of police officers, because doing it additional hours and continue to do that now during the lockdown period has a toll on the personal well-being of the individuals and how they can do the job. So that is a bit of a challenge, and we're in a situation where volunteers coming forward are getting more difficult because they do want time out to recharge their batteries. That is a major concern in terms of how we respond to continued requirements around policing and enforcement. The other message, and I think the LRF is trying to get this across, is that some of the regulations, enforcement and management is not just policing responsibility, it's a shared responsibility between public health departments in the city and the county council, and increasingly now the environmental departments in our districts in terms of regulation management and regulation enforcement. So there are a number of areas, and so public health, in fact, are in the driving seat in terms of having to determine what is being done and how to respond to coronavirus increases and expansion. So there's a lot of good work going on, and I think hopefully it will continue and be maintained between local authorities and the police and the public health and the environmental services and the trading standard services in our local authorities. They've got to work together. They've got to give a positive message together. And I will be doing something on that myself to echo and support everybody working together and the public continuing, even though they are fatigued as well about this lockdown, continue to cooperate and do their best to protect themselves and protect others.
Thanks, Hardy. Could I just sort of ask a supplementary question in terms of, yesterday I witnessed an occurrence at the Derby Royal Hospital where someone had set up a speaker, and well, two guys actually, and they were sort of conspiracy theorists really, and they were calling out the actions of the health professionals within the Derby Royal, claiming that they are covering up cases of COVID and so on and so on. And the reason I raised that is because clearly I stood there along with others, and eventually police constables turned up to I believe arrest these people, and I just thought then that again is an additional sort of resource that one can do without, and or a pressure on resources. And so, as I say, that was really one of my reasons for raising it, along with the fact that, as you've rightly explained, that the police force is being used, maybe unwittingly, to try and control what is clearly a large-scale pandemic. So, thanks very much for your response. Thank you, Vlado.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Hardiel. If there's no more questions on that, we'll move on to the final agenda item, which is date of next meeting. And I'm going to put David Pete on the spot here. David has asked on behalf of the Commissioner's Office to change the date of meeting. And I wonder, David, if you pop away, David, I hope that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. Yes, the request had come in because if colleagues on the panel will remember last year, or actually this year, we had some difficulties with the fact that the details of the funding settlement were very late coming out of government due to the general election, which then meant that it took a long time for us to understand what money was coming in, which meant the papers coming to you as the Police and Crime Panel to undertake your statutory responsibility to look at the potential precept level was more difficult because you didn't have very much time to consider those papers. We're not sure when the announcement is going to be made this year, and so therefore we've asked that the meeting's put back by a week, which will buy us some additional time and will mean that hopefully we are able to get the papers to you with all the calculations and the assumptions, so that you'll be able to fulfil your statutory functions. That's the rationale behind the request.
Thank you very much, David. I think it makes it quite challenging for all of us at that point, doesn't it, in terms of if there are any further delays, etc., etc. But I think it's only reasonable that we're able to accommodate you on that, unless anybody has any major objections. Still in January, I'm hoping that people are going to be willing to be flexible on that. So my recommendation would be, yes, we agree to that. And obviously, I'm sure you'll work very closely with Ivan and Liz to make sure that the papers are all out with us with as much notice as possible in order for us to give them our full attention. Anything else? Anybody want to raise a question on that? I hoped that you didn't mind us bringing David in to explain it. He obviously had a much better understanding of that than I did. Okay, that's no then.
Vicky,
in which case,
Vicky,
sorry, Ivan. Yes,
Vicky, could I just say then? So just for clarity, that will mean that the meeting will be Thursday, the 4th of February.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just going to come to you for clarification, Ivan.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, it's been a very full and eventful meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for your contributions. I think we've gone through our agenda, so I will close the meeting at this point and Thank you very much, everybody, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you all very soon.